60 diodes, each one rated 3 watts. 60 times 3 is 180, so the box says 180 watts. But those diodes are never run at full power. They're driven at roughly 60%. The box says 180, but the wall would say 109. That gap isn't a defect, and it isn't some rounding error. The big number was never a measurement. It's a multiplication. Here's the same trick on a smaller panel. One tester checked a light listed at 24 watts. It pulled 13, listed nearly double what it draws, and that's the small end of the lie. Scale that same arithmetic up to a 1,000 watt panel. You get a light drawing somewhere around 100 watts at the wall. That's not one bad listing. It's a pattern documented across multiple independent sources. Bigger numbers, same trick. You'd think the FTC would have a problem with a label inflated 7 to 10 times over. It doesn't. There's a one-word loophole in the labeling law that makes this whole construction perfectly legal. And it's sitting in plain sight on the listing. The trick has 3 parts: a borrowed habit, a piece of arithmetic, and that loophole. Read all 3, and you can read any panel at any price. The cheap panel isn't the real story. So a no-name panel inflates a number. You might be thinking that's a bottom shelf problem. Buy a real brand and you're safe. That instinct is the actual trap. The arithmetic you just watched isn't a budget seller mistake. It's the standard way wattage gets printed across the whole category. The same multiplication runs under a $40 strip light and a $400 bar. Once you can follow how the number is assembled, the price tag stops protecting you. So here's the whole construction, start to finish. How they build the big number. It starts with a borrowed habit. Back in the HID days, the old high-pressure sodium bulbs, watts tracked output. A bigger sodium bulb genuinely meant more light. So growers learned to trust the number. LEDs inherited that trust and kept the shorthand, long after it stopped meaning anything consistent. You may already know that part. Here's the part nobody shows you. Exactly how the fake number gets manufactured, diode by diode. Because the second part is where it gets more frustrating. The reason your 1,000 watt light only pulls 100 is not that the maker cut corners. It's that they're doing something technically sound, then using it to mislead you. A 3 watt diode fed only 1.8 watts runs cooler. It stays efficient. It lasts far longer. Push a diode to its rated ceiling and you shorten its life and tank its output. So makers deliberately run them below max. That part is a legitimate design choice. The problem is labeling the fixture by the diode's maximum rating instead of the real draw. The ceiling they never actually reach. So the engineering is sound. Which raises the obvious question. If the design is defensible, why is the real draw number missing from almost every budget listing that uses it? That omission is deliberate. And there's a specific reason it keeps working. The arithmetic is identical whether the label reads 180 watts or 1,000. The construction scales perfectly. The third part is the one that should be illegal and isn't. Here's the detail that actually decides it. The FTC's energy labeling rule forces honest wattage onto one specific thing: household screw-base bulbs. The kind you twist into a lamp. An 18-watt LED bulb can't be sold as 100 watts. It has to say 100-watt equivalent. But a grow light panel isn't a screw-base bulb. It's a fixture, and the rule was written for the bulb, so the panel slips through the gap. Then the wording does the rest. Equivalent to 1,000 watt HPS is a comparison, not a draw claim. The seller never says the fixture draws 1,000 watts. They say it performs like something that did. So a panel pulling 100 watts wears 1,000 watts in the title. Fully legal. One borrowed word does all the work. One short beat worth noting. The same factory will print whichever number you pay for. The wattage in the title is a branding choice as much as a technical one. That's all that needs saying here. If a single label can hide a gap this big, imagine what a spec sheet can bury. Subscribe and the next one won't get past you either, because the loophole only survives as long as you don't know which line to look for. If you have a listing open right now, I can name the missing line without seeing your screen. Budget sellers leave it off on purpose. They know what happens when you find it. Missing from the listing. Pull up a representative 1,000-watt budget listing. The title leads with the big number. The description expands on it. Maybe it adds equivalent to 1,000 watts HPS, a comparison, not a measurement. Now look for actual power draw or input power anywhere on that page. It isn't there. What is actually pulling from your outlet lands around 100 to 150 watts. As much as 9 out of every 10 watts in the label can be fiction. And nothing on the page lets you check it. No actual power draw, no micromoles per joule, no PPFD map with a stated height, PPFD being how much usable light actually reaches the plant. The listing leads with the one number you cannot verify and hides every number you could. That omission costs you more than the electric bill. Research from Bruce Bugby's lab at Utah State puts HPS efficiency around 1.7 micromoles per joule. Quality modern LEDs run 2.6 to 3.1. Budget panels in this category often measure below 1.5. You paid for LED. A panel that measures down there loses to 40-year-old sodium technology on the one number LEDs are supposed to win. Then there is the grow itself. Fruiting plants want roughly 30 to 40 real watts of quality LED per square foot. A panel drawing 100 watts covers maybe 3 square feet at that standard. Picture the buyer who staged a 4x4 tent around that label. That is 16 square feet. It needed 5 times the real power. They did not buy a bargain 1,000-watt grow. They bought a small, underpowered one, and they will not know until the plants stretch. There is a brand that sells this exact 100-watt hardware. It built its name on doing the one thing budget makers are afraid of. But first, a question that splits growers cleanly. Once you have got an honest spec sheet in front of you, do you trust the published numbers, or do you reach for a meter and check the wall yourself? The answer changes what you actually need to buy. Who prints the honest number? The Spider Farmer SF1000 draws about 100 watts at the wall. It's labeled 100 watts on the box. Same electricity as the budget 1,000-watt listing. Opposite labels. That single comparison is the whole video in 2 products. Mars Hydro's TS1000 sits around 150 watts of real draw, independently measured. Testing published by Bob Vila clocked its PPFD at 743 at 18 inches. A real output figure at a stated checkable height. That's how you know a number means something. A distance is attached to it. Forum consensus flags the TS1000 as sometimes optimistic on efficacy for its diode specs. So treat it as the value pick, not the most conservative sheet on the shelf, but the published draw and that PPFD figure hold up as honest starting points. AC Infinity takes the labeling standard furthest. Their ion frame line lists actual power consumption right on the spec sheet, not equivalent wattage, not a diode sum headline. The number on the page is the number the wall confirms. That's not a small thing. It's the entire fix built into the listing. The pattern across all 3 is the same. Real wall draw, stated plainly, a PPFD figure with a height attached, a micromole per joule number you can check against Bugby's benchmarks. The budget listing handed you one number you couldn't verify and hid the rest. These brands hand you the verifiable ones and let the marketing figure fend for itself. Here's where I land. A brand that prints the small, honest number is telling you something about every other number on the page. So name the split. Some growers meter everything. Plug in the light, read the wall, trust nothing until the meter confirms it. Others land on a real brand's published micromole per joule and call that enough. Both roads reach the same place. The meter crowd and the spec sheet crowd are arguing method, not outcome. Read any panel. In 10 seconds. Ignore the model name. Ignore the title wattage. Neither one is a measurement. Find actual power draw or input power on the spec sheet. If that line isn't there, close the tab. The number is missing because it's small and the seller knows it. That's the line budget sellers leave off. The one I promised you'd find. Cross-check micromoles per joule while you're there. Below 2.0 is old technology, whatever the price. Between 2.5 and 2.8 is solid. Above 3.0 is top-tier current hardware. Already own a light and don't know what it pulls? A plug-in watt meter runs about $20 and settles it in seconds. The wall doesn't echo the box. It audits it. Know your real footprint before you buy. A windowsill of herbs and a 4x4 flowering tent are different problems. The tier that's right for one is wrong for the other. People still argue whether Mars Hydro or Spider Farmer is the honest benchmark. That argument is worth having. Pick your side in the comments.